really familiar with libraries come into that position. And so I will include him in on some WISPALS things and get him briefed on this.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anything else? Any other announcements from folks? No? All right, so let's take a second and just review the minutes from last September. If there are any revisions or corrections that folks would like to recommend at this time. I actually do have one, Andy. So I'm going to do the same thing. Under number 11, it says NTC's president is retiring. So that's not true.
Oh.
I'm thinking, I went back and watched the recording. I think it was NWTC.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Correction noted. And I will make that correction.
Anything else? Otherwise, we'll be looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
I can move to approve.
All right. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Is there any opposed, say nay? Okay. Minutes are approved. So next on our list here, we have the meeting calendar. Andy, do you want to take that away?
I do. So we, every year, as you recall, put out the meeting calendar way in advance. So we're talking 23-24 here. So the year starting next July. And the meeting dates are pretty standard. We haven't made any changes. The same 5 months have meetings in them. And as I've done the best that I can to check dates against conferences, especially WAL, but WAL 2024, right? Dates aren't available. I mean, 2023 dates aren't available yet. So I couldn't make any calls on that. So I think we have an April meeting. Hopefully it won't run up against WAL. If it does, we'll just keep an eye on it and reschedule as needed. So 2 things with this, then if anybody sees any obvious dates where there's big conflicts that might affect lots of members, let me know. And also I'd like to get the 2024 annual meeting date settled so we can have that on our calendar and we know to schedule around it. In the past, we've been having that either like the last weekish of May, the first week of June. 2023 meeting is already scheduled and I don't have the date at hand, but Katie, you might know offhand what that is. I can look. 22nd, May 22nd of 2023. And we're talking right now about scheduling 2024. So first things first, does anybody see any significant conflicts with dates or calendar that would cause issues with multiple member colleges? Okay, I see some shaking heads.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It looks like, I'm just looking at the 2024 under location, it says virtual or NWTC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking in terms of bringing information back to Kim.
Yes. Kim is she will be the incoming chair.
Okay.
For 23-24.
Okay.
We go in alphabetical order.
Okay.
So Katie at NTC, and after that is Kim at NWTC.
Okay.
So the host is typically the chair of the executive committee.
Okay, because I guess I'm not sure. I could go look and see when our busiest week in May is. Would that be helpful, or should I just have Kim contact you with more information?
Yeah, what we'll do, let's try to set a date now. I know that that's going to be contingent on whether or not Kim can host, and also the decision of being virtual or in person is still sort of up in the air. But and then we'll run that to Kim, and if it doesn't work for y'all, we'll come back to it. Does that sound okay? We'll try a first draft and see if it flies. So going all the way to 2024 on the calendar. So the similar date would be the 26th or the 19th. Wait, the 26th. Wait, is it the last week in May? That's Memorial Day weekend? Yes. So we would want to avoid that. So the 19th or the 20th would be the similar time day, or we could move it to June 3rd. And we've done Mondays, we don't have to, but Mondays have seemed to work best for folks as well, as far as kind of travel. Midweek is not ideal. Any preference? May 20, June 3rd, 2024, looking way into the future. If I just say June 3rd, what are your feelings about that?
Good with
This
me.
is Allison. June 3rd sounds great.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll try that as a starting point. Julie, do you want me to connect with Kim?
I'm taking notes so I can tell her, but yeah, if you want to connect with her as well, but I'm sure
Okay.
she'll be on it.
Okay. And then the other question I had for everybody is about the 2023 meeting. Is there will among this group to have that meeting in person for this coming May, which again would be on May 22nd, and that would be at the NTC Wausau campus, Katie?
Yes, that's correct. And we would be more than happy to host in person if everyone's willing to travel, and then we can have that kind of chance to meet and have lunch and all those kinds of things too. But if virtual is still a better mode for folks, we're happy to host either way. Probably not I don't know, Andy, probably not a combined one. I imagine that would be a little tricky.
It's getting a little easier. The technology has happened. We're actually at Will's, we're looking at getting one of those owl systems with the little creepy eyes that follow you around.
Oh,
And that's it's
We have
worked out
the
better.
owls, and I don't recommend the owls, Andy. We have the
Oh.
owls.
Good
Yeah.
to know. Okay.
First of all, we had a number of them on campus, and they work, but they're not a wonderful solution. I mean, you can see somewhat, and then there was a security issue, and they had our IT department recalled all the owls. We had one that we like lent from the library. And then they ended up using grant money and actually putting in cameras in all the classrooms that can zoom in, can zoom out, can focus on people that are talking and stuff like that. So we had an owl. I mean, we had a lot of owls on campus, and we aren't using them anymore.
No, thanks for that heads
Yeah.
up.
Sorry.
Yeah, appreciate it. Like we nonprofit budget, man, we don't want to invest in anything that's not going to last.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else had an experience, but that was just ours. And in terms of the meeting, I would be willing to travel. But if people need it to be virtual, that's okay too.
I see a couple of thumbs up towards in person. Katie seems to welcome it as well. Yep, I see some more.
There's also
Okay.
some notes in the chat too that are in agreement for either
Right.
way or in person.
All right, well, let's
Is there anyone who can't do in person? Because we've gotten a lot of positives, but I just want to make space for anyone who it's like, that won't work for us. We're tight on staff or something like that. Just to be inclusive. Okay, just wanted to throw that out there.
All right, let's tentatively book it. We'll be in Wausau.
Awesome.
Yay, that'll be exciting.
We're looking forward to it.
It'll be our first one in so long. Where was the
Yes.
last one? Fox Valley? I think the last one might have been at Fox Valley. Melody, do you remember? Lakeshore? No. Was it? Amy's nodding.
I think it was the one that's over on the east side of the state near the lake. So it must have been Lakeshore.
Yep.
I think that was our last one.
Man, that feels like a long time ago. Well, I'm excited to see. Okay, yay. This is great. We will have an in-person meeting. We'll have lunch together and that will be delightful. All right, fab. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
So next up is our final budgets. Hopefully everyone got a chance to look at that. We will be reviewing and potentially approving it, but if there's any discussion on it, of course, we want to open it up to any questions or concerns. And if there aren't any, we'll be looking for, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but we're looking for a motion then to approve the WISPALS final budget for 23-24.
Gary
I
told
move
me
to
to
approve
vote
both.
yes to approve.
I'll move to approve the 23-24 final budget.
Okay, thank you. And is there a second?
I can second.
Awesome. Everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any? Thank you. Any opposed? All right, so the 23-24 budget is passed.
Katie, can we go back? I kind of would
oh.
like to get an approval on the calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we can do
No,
that.
that's okay. I totally didn't. I overlooked it as well.
Okay, so we will be looking for a motion to approve the 23-24 calendar with the tentative annual meeting date of June 3rd.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to approve that?
I'll give a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, calendar is passed. We're making
Thank
lots
you.
of progress today. Okay, Andy, next up is a project checklist.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so this is a component of the work that we've been talking about with the eye towards sort of simplifying and unifying us in the projects outside of the ILS that we take on. So in order to do that and keep us all together on the things that we're doing, we created this project planning template, and it sort of outlines very specific, very I don't know, broad overviews of any projects that we might take on, including like what it is, where does this idea come from, like what is the need that it grows out of, when are we going to do it, what are going to be the benefits, what are going to be the like tangible outcomes of it, who is going to be involved in this work. And so as we discussed each, we had kind of these roles defined where we wanted to make sure that everybody felt comfortable, if they aren't directly participating in a project, but that they have the blessing for the project to continue, right? And nobody feels obligated if they don't have the staff time or capacity or interest, right? If it's not on their organizational goals and they don't want to participate. So this kind of documents all of those things and keeps it all together, and we can kind of keep it in our records. And if we're like, wait, why did we start this? Or, you know, if new members of the committee come on and they want to know why we're doing this thing, we have all this documented. Then we've also made space for some occasional reviews of the project, right? Some assessments to come back as a group. How is that work going? Is it meeting the needs it was supposed to? Do we need to make any pivots? Is it done? And so this gives us the opportunity and the sort of prompt to come back and do that regularly. So the intention with this is to simply, when it comes forward from the group that there's this thing and 3 of us are all working on this thing and maybe we want to work on it together as a WISPALS consortium, this document would come into play and we could kind of go through it. And after kind of the first bits, we can get a good feel. Is this a good consortium? Is this a good project for the consortium? And, you know, use it for that documentation. So this response to that document we've been referring to a lot, the recommendations for future work. And this is put to you for your review. Do you see anything doesn't make sense or is missing or something that feels weird, or does it feel like it's going to work for us? What do you think?
I do have one comment from Kim. Let's see. She says that she particularly likes that it focuses on the outcomes. So.
Yeah, that was pretty clear in the messaging you all shared with us about what you want, as that those tangible deliverables that we can point to and say, look what we did. I'm glad it responds to that. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. I really like it. I appreciate how it's going to document the things that we talk about, but kind of have it in one place for us and kind of outline some of the steps and expectations. And yeah, this I think is a really good summation of the conversation that we had earlier this year. So thank you for putting that together.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Are there any questions on this as well? Like something that we need clarified?
I guess my only question is about the project review, and it's a little bit vague to me, I guess, when a project would be reviewed, at what stage, if we should include more guidance about that, or if we should let it remain kind of like, I don't know, flexible.
Yeah, I like that comment. We want it to be flexible because it would be a different time frame for different projects. But if having a box in here that says like review calendar, like that asks somebody to name those dates right in advance. So how often are you going to evaluate this project? We could add that as a component into the project review there. Does that help?
I think that would be good, since it's asking for a time frame, you know, on the front page here. So it is putting in the idea that you to construct some sort of goals, you know, about when it's going to be completed, and
right. Or maybe we add it to that first page as one of the questions, like how and when should this project be evaluated? So you can lay that out in advance.
Andy, do you envision that this is sort of like there will be we'll set up milestones along the way and review at each of those milestones, or is this more of like a final end project review?
I think both. I think I had envisioned that this would happen multiple times if it wasn't completed at the point of first review, right? If we have like a little project that gets done quickly.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I like that idea of setting up like what those milestones are. And you kind of have it in the activities section here. And maybe it even needs just like a column that's like assess
Mhm,
after
mhm.
this deliverable.
I think it should also be noted that the one of the intentions for the project review is so before the project even starts, that the executive committee has reviewed this this document and made a decision. Maybe maybe you'll pursue it, but maybe you won't. And so we want to have those notes and that stuff saved as well. So if the project idea comes up in the future, we can look back and say, well, why did we decide not to do it at that point? We'll have this document as well. So we can use this as like an initial review of the project proposal, but also then duplicate it for either those checkpoints and then also the final review. So I think we could be flexible on how many reviews, but depends upon the project. They'll probably all need a different level of check-ins. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that clears up a lot, Melody. I think
Okay.
it might be a little helpful just for clarity's sake, because I think the approval process, that initial review, is a very different thing than
Mhm.
checking in at
An
milestones.
evaluation. Yep.
So maybe like project approval or project green light. I don't know. I
Yep,
don't know if
that's a great
approval
idea.
sounds too like formal, but it might be nice to have those like semantically different.
I think that's a great idea. We can separate those out so we can have that initial review, or maybe approval is the more appropriate word, and then the decision on that. Because like I said, I think it's important for us to capture those projects that don't move anywhere, because sometimes they come up again. There's cyclical things that we talk about, and we want to capture those and make sure we keep record of that so we can revisit why maybe it wasn't pursued and so forth. So then we could add an additional evaluation and even a final evaluation section. That makes a lot of sense.
Great suggestions. We will make those changes. Any other questions or suggestions?
I actually had a question on this as well. Is this something that is kind of spearheaded by an individual library and could be at any point during the year? Or is there a more particular process that we're using in terms of I have a project idea, or we talk collectively about project ideas? Is there some kind of guidance in terms of how that comes up? I know myself, I would feel more comfortable knowing like, oh, I can just bring up a project anytime, or this is the avenue I would go through to get it into this document in this process.
Yeah, I think that's actually a component that we need to, that's like the next step of this. Like, how do we set aside space and give those opportunities? It's a little Shark Tanky, like, how do we, make a space for people to pitch things to the group? And I think that would be fabulous. And I think we can do that in a number of different places, but it is something we have to figure out. So we can do those in our meetings. We can do those at the annual meeting. We can do those over base camp. We can do them any of those places. But I do think that having a very deliberate moment of like, hey, bring forth your ideas, right? Would be useful. Does anybody have?
Andy, I just wanted to note too, I think one of the reasons we created the project template and we're going this route is because from the surveys on initiatives, we heard from you that sometimes just having the initiatives talk one time a year isn't beneficial because things pop up through the year. And so this the original kind of intention was to help guide and any projects that do pop up throughout the year. So I think we can definitely maybe even make space on, or we have a couple of areas within some of the executive committee agendas with like idea sharing, announcements, those types of things. Maybe we could incorporate in the idea sharing project ideas, like just to see, hey, just a reminder, we have this template, we have this. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk through and then maybe fill out the project template for? But we could also do that on a monthly basis via Basecamp. Just throwing ideas out there.
Anyone have any strong feelings about what would work well? We don't necessarily have to solve this today, but since we're talking about it.
And I don't think we have to pick one avenue either. I think we can make that space in multiple ways. And I should say too, I think Melody and I are both, if you have an idea that you're hatching and you're not quite ready to bring it to the group and you want to talk with either of us, I think we're both more than willing to talk through some of those ideas. Because we might know that from conversations with you individually, that other colleges are working on the same problem. So feel free to reach out to us too.
I don't know if I missed it yet. Is there a rubric we're going on for the project approval piece, or is it just documentation?
So we do have like, each of these things represents something that the committee wanted fulfilled in any new projects that come up. And the first thing of that is that it comes from members of the committee, but also that the project is clearly defined, that it has a time frame, that it has deliverables, that everybody is on board in some way with this project. So this sheet itself is sort of the rubric. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the only thing I think maybe adding to it, like where you're listing the colleges, because you have champion, contributor, observer, maybe adding something that like applies to, like, I know some of the projects we have, some of us agree to, even though at our colleges, we couldn't actually use it because that's not in our department. So I think that'd be a good thing to document somewhere too of, this was for these 7 colleges, or, it was the majority, not the minority, or something like that. So maybe just another column under the colleges.
Or maybe in the approval process, like that gets documented there?
Yeah, I just think it would be good to have it documented somewhere so we don't have those conversations again of, I said yes, but I'm not going to use it.
Well, that's the point of the observer rule, I guess, is that there wasn't an objection to it. You may or may not benefit from what the outcomes are, but that you're on board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that, so if that were the case for a particular project and you were marked as an observer, does that satisfy?
I think if we're going to use the observer for that, I would say I wouldn't label it as a non-participant, or maybe just add in does not apply to this college. So when I think of like an observer, I'm not on the committee that helps it, but I might still use it, but.
Okay, I can add that. So it's more of like adding a rationale to that, like, because it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I will make that change.
I may be misunderstanding too, but if this colleges section is going to serve as kind of that process for approval as well, and kind of articulating what level of participation, it's possible that we would want an additional column for like non-approval, right? So would we want to document like, actually, I'm not in favor of this project at all. I don't know if that will come up, but if that's going to be the same document, we might want to consider that too.
Got it. In my mind, that column would be left blank, but I think it's more direct to add the column that says, no, thank you. This is great. Wonderful feedback. Thanks, everybody. Any other suggestions or questions? All right, let us know if you think of any. I will make those updates and send along an updated version to you all sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for putting this together, Wills. It's beautiful. So excited that we're moving forward on that. Melody, I think you're up next with the ILS exploration.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to check in with you all. I know we've sort of started the process over Basecamp. Just as a reminder, we are only just starting year 3 of 5, but we're starting early and gonna take this process slow because it can be a lot. So to not overwhelm you all, we're starting early so we can just do little things at a time until we get to the point where we're ready to make a decision. So I just wanted to remind the group, I had a couple of questions for you, but I wanted to remind the group that, so back in the last time we did an ILS exploration was in 2019. And we did have a separate ILS exploration committee that was formed. And at the time, the committee, when I asked if the group needed to pursue an RFP or an RFI, the committee decided that if we were to pursue an additional or new vendor, an RFP would be required by their colleges. And I'm assuming that probably hasn't changed. At the time, the group decided, of course, just to renew. So no new vendor was pursued, so an RFP wasn't created. But I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of things. Like I said, does this executive committee want to create a subcommittee specifically for the ILS exploration to sort of spearhead that project, or do you want to do all of the work at the executive committee level?
Melody, I'm wondering for maybe any individuals who haven't sat in on that process last time, can you talk a little bit about what that work might involve?
Yeah, so we just essentially making okay, so let me bring up Basecamp. I created and shared an ILS timeline quite a bit ago, just to give you all a heads up. Let me find that. Let me share that really quickly with you all. Okay, so let me just share this. All right, so this was shared on Basecamp, I think like maybe in June, a while ago. So this can give you an idea of the process and the work that it will be done. So we'll essentially either this group or a subcommittee would review all of like the needs, determine whether or not like an RFP or RFI. I feel like the executive committee needs to make that determination.
Melody, are you sharing? Are we supposed to be seeing what you're talking
you can't
about
see
in
that?
No, I'm still looking at the agenda.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay, can you see that now?
No. Now we can.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Have you guys only been seeing the agenda this whole time? Oh my gosh, I've been sharing all of these documents. I can't. So sorry. I think I hit the wrong share button. Instead of a screen, I just hit the agenda. I apologize.
Just
saw
for
the
this
calendar.
Yeah, just for this
You
agenda
did.
item.
Okay. Oh, okay, good. Okay. All right. So, okay. So as we were talking about, what would the committee be doing? They'll be essentially making the decisions about how we want to pursue. Are we looking what the vendors that we would identify? Kind of helping coordinate any reviews that we would do, any demos that we would pursue, making decisions upon the kind of the wants and the needs of the consortium, that type of thing. One thing to consider is the who. So whether or not we will create another committee, or if it would be done at the executive committee level, who would you want represented, or who do you want kind of spearheading that, making those decisions? Will it be you as the executive committee member, or will it be additional folks at your library? If it'll be additional folks that you want involved, then we might want to consider having an exploration committee. Again, I believe the last time Oh, yep, go ahead.
I will go ahead and say that Gary says he doesn't have time for this, so if I was interested in it, I could join. So just letting you know from Gateway's perspective, he's a little too busy.
And do other folks have thoughts on that? Would you like to just create another committee? Again, I know the level of busyness everyone has, and so we won't have a ton of meetings, but we will occasionally have to meet to talk through some things and make some decisions. And if this group wants, we can do that outside of the executive committee level. Oh, I'm seeing some chat here. Ellen shares that either way, okay, you'll be the rep. Kim said she'd like to be on an ILS committee. She has no comment about if we need, okay. Okay. Is anyone, I'm trying to think of the best way to move forward without making a lot of extra work and a lot of extra meetings. Why don't we start at the executive committee level, since I'm not hearing anything too strong? And then Rachel, you could always attend those meetings as well, those executive committee meetings. We'll make sure that it's very clear in advance that we'll be talking about the ILS at those meetings, and we can let people know if you have folks that you want to join in on that conversation, they can attend the executive committee meetings as well then. We'll start there and see, because like I mentioned, we're trying to stretch this out into a 2-year process, so it's not overwhelming. But if at some point we feel like, okay, there's a little bit more extra work, let's go ahead and create a subcommittee, we'll do so. So the other question, is everyone okay with that? It's just kind of leaving it at the executive committee level for now. I'm seeing head nods. Amber says, I like that plan for now. Okay.
I like that idea too, Melody. I think in the past, did we add time after the executive committee meetings for the subcommittee? I thought we did something similar to that. So like it fell within the same calendar dates, just as an addendum to the meeting.
Yeah, sometimes I think we had maybe right afterwards, and then we had separate committees meetings as well. So
maybe that's what you're
but yeah, I think that's a good idea. Maybe we could tack on, if needed, 15 extra minutes to the agenda or something like that to spread out. So we don't lose all of our other executive committee agenda items as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Melody.
So the other question I was thinking that I would just draft a real drafty RFI. Just to get all of the information out there so that we could use that when new vendors are identified. Does everyone think that's the right step? And then if it is needed, we could then formalize that into a formal proposal, because I believe most of your colleges, in order to use a new vendor, do have to have an RFP, right? I'm seeing at least Katie's nodding. All right, so I think we'll just go the route of the RFI for now, get all that information together. Essentially, when we send requests for quotes, it's essentially an RFI anyways. They need to have all of that information. So we'll begin there. I think that's all I have for now to get us going. I know I had you all update the wants and needs list just to make sure that that was up to date. And then I'll be working on that RFI and bring it back to the committee, maybe over Basecamp, just to review and just kind of give the check of approval. And then we'll start talking about vendors and potential options soon. So, all right, thanks everybody. Are there any questions about the process at all before we move on? All right, awesome. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay, so I don't know which one of you want to take this, but it looks like Andy and Melody, you have the next one here.
This is the evaluation survey results, which the Performance Evaluation Committee has seen and weighed in on. We had, as we did last year, somebody check all the wrong boxes. So the first one, so we have a whole slew of like extremely dissatisfied somebody who then left like no negative comments, and the rest of that individual response was very positive. So we, as project managers, we put forth the hypothesis that that was a mistake, which Katie then verified by having conversations, reaching out to you all individually to make sure there wasn't any simmering extreme dissatisfaction. And there was not. Beyond that, and if we take into account what we've talked about at our annual meeting and what our work on the recommendations for future work are, there's not a lot to respond to in the survey. The responses are positive. It makes us glow from the inside that we're providing service to you at a level that meets your expectations. But usually what we have are a couple of comments where we've got some action plan to address some things that are going on. But we kind of did it all in advance. All the action plans that would respond to anything in the survey have already been laid out in the recommendations for future work. So beyond that, we didn't have a lot of adjustments to make to our service to you, in response to this survey. And we wanted to make sure the Performance Evaluation Committee agreed, but we wanted to make sure that the Executive Committee also agreed with that assessment. And if you had any questions or further comments you wanted to add to here, or considerations that you want us to take back and think over, we welcome your comments all the time. We want to know that we're doing right by you. So any comments, concerns, questions? Thank you, Amber. Anybody from the Performance Evaluation Committee, you're welcome to weigh in as well.
I don't know if this is an appropriate place for this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Given that we have a number of folks on this committee who are new, either in one role or another, and I know that you guys did a really good job when I was new, but I assume that that is part of kind of the plan of service that you're providing at this particular time, is supporting those new folks on this committee as they kind of get onboarded and figure things out. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. We do our best that we can to onboard new folks. I think Madeline and Allison are learning that.
Terrific, thank you.
I'm going to take the silence as a good thing. If you do, and at any, please don't wait a year to tell us if things are going off the rails. We welcome all levels of feedback. Positive and critical. So we always want to be providing better service. Reach out to us if you ever have anything you want to share, or if you're uncomfortable reaching out to us, please do reach out to the chair as well. They can get that process started as well.
Thank you so much, Andy and Melody, for all you do for us. We appreciate it. All right, so next we have the WAL 2023 scholarship conversation.
I don't know if we can have a conversation about this one yet. There's still not a date. I keep looking. So in the past, for folks who are new, we have had a couple of approaches to supporting the WAL conference. For a few years, we offered, I think, a $500 sponsorship amount, sponsored, I think, the poster sessions. And the last couple of years, we've had scholarships that we've given away in that same amount, around $500, for members of WISPALS library staff to attend the WAL conference. It's a little hard to make a decision. We actually already had this in front of us a couple of months ago, and we declined to make a decision until we had a date. I was hoping we would have a date by now, and we don't. So you don't know how you want to handle this. Do we push this off until farther down the road? We'll come back in, our next meeting will be in February. And I think that's when we ended up approving it last year anyway. So we can kick this down the road until February, wait till we have a date. We could make a decision over Basecamp if a date is released. But I guess generally, does anybody have
Ashley
Andy,
has her
Thoughts
hand
about
have you,
that? I see that,
sorry.
Ashley, yeah.
Have you heard from anyone at Wall? Because I was under the impression they were moving to an every other year. And this was not the year they were having one, because they're having like all these mini kind of gatherings in lieu of the big conference. Is that kind of what everyone else has heard?
I have heard that rumor, Ashley, and I was going to ask the rest of the committee if anybody could confirm that as well.
So I went to one of the like mini gatherings, and I don't know if anyone else, I know Kim did from NWTC, and they, at least my impression was that these kind of gatherings were in place of that. They're not doing a big conference this year.
How was the attendance at that mini gathering? I wasn't able to go.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I want to say 20, 25 people.
Okay.
Was that at
Yeah.
Green Bay? Is that the Green Bay?
That was at UWGB, yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the Wall conference this year, and the final session was all about whether, because I think the Wall conference this year was not as well attended as it has been in the past. And I believe there were some financial implications, because this was the conference that was supposed to be held in March or April, whenever it was in 2020 during the beginning of the pandemic. And so I know there was a lot of talk about whether they were going to continue in that format or not, because of the attendance had been so poor at this year. So I wouldn't be surprised, because there was talk about it, but I didn't know anything had been decided definitively.
Yeah, I haven't heard any official proclamations, but I have heard all of these coming from other folks too. And I could reach out to Laura at WLA to see what the internal talk is there. Although I just had an idea, and maybe you just put this in your pocket. Maybe WISPALS would want to host one of those mini gatherings at some point. That would be kind of fun. And I don't know what any of the parameters or process for those are, but that's an idea we could put away as a way we could support Wall. All right, I'll reach out to Laura and update you with Laura Saucer, the WLA director, and let you know what I learn. But for now, we'll just pretend this wasn't on the agenda, and we'll come back to it in February if it makes sense to. Thank you.
All right, so project manager report.
Yeah, I can jump in here. One is, let me share the actual report. Where is it at? Here we go. So we shared the project manager report. But if you have any questions about any of this, let us know. I did also want to share that we'll share this specific document out after today, but we did update the WISPALS initiative history document. So this is just a document that we've been just updating every year at the end of the year. Now that all the past year's initiatives are complete, we've updated it for 21, 22. And just as a reminder, this document really just serves as a well, I guess a history of what this group has done. But the nice thing about it is we have all of the outputs and links to all of the tangible things that have been completed. So you can see all of the things that we have created over the past year and where you can find those. And this can also be used as a document to show, your administration that, hey, these are the things that we're working on. These are the things we've created with, in partnership with the rest of WISPALS and so forth. Like I said, we didn't share this out initially, but we will after this meeting. We'll share it out as a PDF on Basecamp so that you can then share it out if you'd like, or share it with, your staff members if need be. But we wanted to make sure that you were aware that this has been updated, and it does go back to 2016. And Rachel, yeah, I see you have your hand up.
I was just wondering, when you say share, is that just among the executive committee, or will other staff be able to see this?
Yeah, actually, I think we'll share it with the executive committee, but we'll also put it in the resource document repository on Basecamp that everybody has access to, so that you can see that and everyone can take a look at it, because the links are really handy too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So does anyone have any question about anything that we added on the project report?
A quick little note I wanted to just call out. The annual report is done and complete and approved. So also please feel free to share that with your various networks and leaderships. And I also want to do a quick update on what the fun work group did. So we met in October, yeah, it was last month, and decided that the best course of action is to package up the survey question bank. So you all can use those surveys and those questions on your own timeline as you need to. So we will be putting those together in a number of formats that will be, hopefully one of them will be accessible to you. I think we're going to do like Google Doc, Word Doc, PDF, and a Google form. And so then you can kind of copy it into whatever format works for you to share surveys. I'm going to draft up a really brief process of how we ran the surveys. And then also some messaging, some just templated kind of messaging to help get the word about the survey out. And then you will see that sometime before winter break, so mid-December or so. And then after winter break, when we meet next, we can talk about whether or not we want to share that more broadly. The question bank, if there are other peer institutions that might benefit from something like this, it was an idea that the fun work group thought might be useful. So defer judgment on that now until you see what this kind of package of questions and survey looks like, and then we'll talk about that in January or February.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Does anyone have any questions on any of those points? The project manager report, initiatives document? I just want to say, oh, go ahead.
I was going to clarify for Allison that FUN stands for Faculty User Needs. That group, I'm sorry, that group has been working on running a bunch of surveys targeted towards different program areas to understand what faculty need and what their students need from the library in order to improve service. Sorry, Katie.
Oh, you're good. I just wanted to say thank you so much for keeping that initiative's history up to date. I know for myself, sometimes it's hard to like pull all the pieces together. And I think that just really succinctly is a great resource to summarize. And like you said, has the links to everything. So thank you so much for keeping all of us very organized with that. It's great. Okay, so appreciations, celebrations. We'll just open up the floor. Anything that anyone would like to share at this time from your libraries?
Well, Gateway, I see that Gary had shared that we were looking for a new president. We were going through the search that took months and months. They did announce about 2 weeks ago who the new president is going to be. Her name is Rita Raju, R-A-J-U is her last name, and she'll start on January 5th. I know library staff is excited about her. Of the 4 candidates that interviewed, she seemed like she really be a good supporter of the libraries as well as other departments here. And she's coming from Texas, a community college in Texas. So yay.
Congratulations. All right, well, if there's no other news, we'll jump to the last item here, which is our idea and or challenge sharing or other communications. kind of an open time for any topic. You might want to pick each other's brains or talk about best practices.
I will pose a question, and I think we've talked about it before, and I know some of you have really good programs for it and good plans in place, but we are having a real challenge with our work studies this semester. And I know that some of you have really, really good work study training practices to get really high quality results, but we're just having a lot of challenges with getting folks that are consistent and reliable and helpful. And so if you've got training resources or suggestions or ideas, I would welcome them.
Is it like, what have the issues been? Is it like not following procedures or professionalism or?
Yes, and a combination of things. We have we have the challenge of having really like shoestring professional staff, and we staff in our library and general help, which includes a lot of IT support and technical assistance. And then we are also the hub for tutoring and academic support. And so we have to like constantly juggle a lot of things. And our work studies often help us do that. But we've had some issues again, the professionalism, the inconsistency, and also the we've trained some habits and then they aren't getting followed, or we do something different. So again, I think it's just the and we are doing a lot of things. I'm not trying to say we're just like throwing them out there, but because we've not had success this semester, I would welcome how you do it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it seems like, and I am in a similar position where the Student Success Center is that hub for a lot of different things. And I really tried to ramp up my training this year, so of work study students. So I can share some of what I've come up with. And I think the most challenging part for me is like, I do the training and then I'm like, good, done, checked it off the list, and I don't want to revisit it again, you know? But I have found that the more I check in with them, and it's like, it is time consuming, and that might sound like trite advice or something like that, so I'm sorry, but it's like constantly visiting with them I have found to be the most helpful. I don't know what others' experiences have been.
Yeah, we do something similar too, and we did when I had, how many students do you have, Ellen?
Hypothetically, we have 6 library and then a slew of other like peer tutors, but 6 that we manage.
In the library?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if possible, to check in with them regularly, even if it's like 3 one week, 3 the next week. And we make checklists. So we have like a training checklist where they first get trained, and that's kind of a column. And then there's a second checklist that we tell them, we set the expectation that we're going to revisit the second column, which is they've mastered that skill. So in those check-ins, we check in what they've been trained on initially and fill any gaps, and then we fill any gaps on things they haven't or feel like they haven't mastered yet. So that is one way to kind of find the training gap too.
Yeah, we do similar at Midstate. We do the in-person training based off a checklist. Then we have all that material in the LMS, and we use EduPuzzle. So that way they're being reintroduced and then quizzed on if they know it or not. And then based on those results, we go back in to develop a plan and SMART goals for understanding all the pieces. We also have them sign a contract that they understand tardiness, being absent would result in termination. I did this year start doing SMART goals, and that seemed to help because they take it more seriously. And then we also implemented if they are tardy twice or don't show up twice, they get put on a written warning and they sign it. very similar to what we do with our regular employees. So that way, again, they take it more seriously.
Yeah, those are all helpful suggestions. Thank you. Do you, and I guess maybe this is the Amber question or kind of all of you, do you have specific timelines? So when you have this checklist of things, do you have everybody, you know, kind of by this date we master, or that is a rolling deadline based on the individual and their goals?
Ours are more rolling because we hire throughout the entire year. Because the more the merrier. Some of them will drop off. But the goal is in-person's done within the week, the virtual is done by their second week, and then regular check-ins afterwards.
I'm sharing Julie at Green Bay had shared a checklist, and I'm in the chat. I don't know if you see that, Ellen. I'm sharing it on the screen right now too.
Yeah, in addition to the checklist, we also have a, what is it called on Teams, a thread specifically for part-time staff, and that it includes part-time staff and work study. So can check in that way as well, because I have some work study or some staff who only work Saturdays, and I don't typically come in every Saturday, although I try to check in, but that's been, we just started using that, and that's really been working well for just, and I try to just also post silly stuff. So, you know, post just to try to make it a little community. I've had, I don't want to say trouble this year, but just a couple of students who, you know, had really bad, you know, personal issues come up more so than in the past. And I don't know if that's sort of aftermath of COVID or everything, or but just kind of hiring some, losing some through no fault of anybody's. So that's kind of on top of everything else. But yeah, the check-in often, which can be a balance, because I've had in the past, I think I maybe checked in on Saturday people too much, and they finally told me to stop coming in. I said, I'm not here to, you know, try to come upon you doing something you're not supposed to. I just wanted them to feel like they weren't just hanging out there all alone. But so.
Ellen, when it comes to procedures, are you finding that like daily, well, they're not always in every day, but like daily tasks are not getting done? Or is it more like ongoing projects that are not being done to like a specific standard?
Both, unfortunately.
Okay. I was gonna say for the daily stuff.
Yeah.
That like have to be done. I do have a checklist that they have to initial on for each one. And once they kind of get the flow of it, and I know it's getting done all the time, that's great. But if something doesn't get done, I go back to that checklist and I see who initialed or who didn't initial during their shift and should have. And then we have that conversation at their check-in. So.
Okay. Yeah, those are all great ideas. Thank you.
For the hiring too, we added in, because we have this for tutors that they need a faculty recommendation. We now do that for our library work study staff. Again, I think that helps with attendance because it took care of our ghosters.
Yeah, that's helpful. We've had a hard time getting applicants at all. So I think that's part of it, is essentially if you apply, you're hired. But I've got lots of good ideas written down. Thank you so much for brainstorming with me.
I'm going to create a folder in the shared library for if anybody wants to upload those checklists. And I'll send a link with that when I send the notes out.
I love that. This is great. I'll also just add our 2 cents from NTC is just that we have really found great luck with dental, with students in the dental program. I think just like their aptitude, like naturally is more like customer service and being detail oriented and those types of things. So whenever we see an applicant from the dental program, we try to snatch them up really fast. And Julie says that the nursing program as well at NWTC.
We get that too with the nursing program because they're already here, they're pretty disciplined, so that's good. But I will say, as far as the hiring process too, we usually, at least our practice before, was to hire anyone with a pulse. And we have moved away from that because if there is anything in the application or the references that indicate that they have an attendance issue, that's going to be a lot more of my time than it's worth, which sounds terrible because I know this is a training opportunity, but that will bring down the whole group if we have to constantly fill gaps. So attendance is the one area we do not train in. They have to come with that kind of discipline.
Awesome. Great discussion, everyone. Is there any other topic? We're running a little close to end of time here, but anything quick that somebody was hoping to ask the group? Okay, well, our next meeting is on Wednesday, February 15th. Hope you all have a great break when your break comes for winter. And thanks for the great discussion today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for
It's
having
so
me.
good to see your faces. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.